The Galactic Council chambers buzzed with nervous energy as Ambassador Zethkalar of the Vorthak Empire rose from his crystalline seat. His forearms gestured dramatically while his translator rendered his harsh clicks and whistles into standard galactic speech. Around the massive circular hall, representatives from dozens of species watched with varying degrees of interest and concern. Fellow council members, Zethkalar's voice echoed through the chamber. We face an unprecedented threat to galactic stability. The humans of Terra have expanded beyond their designated sector boundaries. Again, a ripple of murmurs spread through the assembly. The Terran representative, Ambassador Sarah Chen, remained seated in the human delegation area, her face carefully neutral. She had expected this accusation, but the timing concerned her. 3 Terran colony ships had indeed crossed into disputed space, following distress calls from mining stations under attack by pirates. Council Speaker Morden, an ancient ethereal whose translucent form shimmered with authority, raised one gossamer hand for silence. Ambassador Zethkalar, please present your evidence. The Vorthak's mandibles clicked in satisfaction as holographic displays materialized above the chamber floor. The images showed 3 human vessels near the asteroid belt of Kepler 442, their hulls bearing the distinctive blue and white insignia of the Terran Colonial Authority. These warships violated the Centauri Accords by entering Zone 7 Alpha without council authorization. Zethkalar continued. Furthermore, they engaged and destroyed several vessels belonging to independent operators in the region. Ambassador Chen finally stood, her voice calm but firm. Council Speaker, if I may respond to these accusations? Morden's ethereal features shifted in what might have been a nod. You may speak, Ambassador Chen. The vessels Ambassador Zethkalar calls independent operators were attacking unarmed mining stations, Chen stated clearly. 3 separate distress calls reached our nearest patrol group. By interstellar law, we were obligated to respond to civilian vessels under attack. Lies. Zethkalar's translator crackled with the intensity of his emotional outburst. Those were legitimate salvage operations in unclaimed space. Chen's tablet chimed softly, and she glanced at the incoming priority message from Earth. Her expression darkened as she read the encrypted communication. The message was brief but devastating. Kepler Station destroyed. 40,000 civilian casualties. Vorthak energy signatures confirmed. Council Speaker, Chen said, her voice now carrying a harder edge. I've just received word that Kepler Station has been destroyed. 40,000 human civilians are dead. The chamber erupted in shocked voices and clicking sounds from various species. Morden's form flared brighter as he called for order. Silence. Ambassador Chen, are you certain of this information? The attack occurred 6 hours ago, Chen replied, her diplomatic training keeping her voice steady despite the rage building inside her. Our deep space monitoring stations detected massive energy discharges consistent with Vorthak plasma cannons. Zethkalar's 4 arms spread wide in a gesture of mock innocence. The Vorthak Empire has no knowledge of any attack on human installations. Perhaps their poorly constructed stations simply malfunctioned. Several council members shifted uncomfortably. The Vorthak were known for their aggressive expansion policies, but an unprovoked attack on a civilian station would violate dozens of galactic treaties. However, they were also one of the most powerful military forces in the galaxy, second only to the mysterious Terran fleet that rarely ventured far from human space. Chen activated her personal communicator, speaking in rapid English to her aide. Within moments, another priority message arrived on her tablet. This one made her hands tremble slightly as she read it. Council Speaker, she announced, I'm instructed to inform this body that the Terran Defense Force is mobilizing in response to the unprovoked attack on Kepler Station. Earth Command has authorized the deployment of military assets to protect human interests in the disputed zones. Empty threats. Zethkalar clicked dismissively. Humanity's so-called defense force consists of converted cargo haulers and mining ships. The Vorthak Empire commands 17 battle fleets. What can your primitive species possibly do against true military might? The chamber fell silent at this blatant challenge. Even the usually chattering Zephyrian delegation had gone quiet, their feathered crests flattened in concern. Everyone present knew that open warfare between 2 council species would shatter the fragile peace that had held for over a century. Chen closed her tablet and looked directly at Zethkalar. When she spoke, Her voice carried a quality that sent chills through even the most hardened diplomats in the room. Ambassador, you have just made a very grave error in judgment. Humanity does not make empty threats, nor do we forget unprovoked attacks on our people. I suggest you contact your fleet commanders immediately and order them to withdraw from all human territory. Or what? Zethkalar's translator rendered his clicking as mocking laughter. Will you send your merchant marine to frighten us? Chen gathered her materials and stood to leave. No, Ambassador. We'll send something else entirely. As the human delegation filed out of the chamber, several other ambassadors exchanged worried glances. The Altarian representative, whose species had excellent intelligence networks, leaned toward his aide and whispered urgently. The Centauri delegate activated her emergency communicator, sending a coded message to her homeworld, advising increased security protocols. Only the ethereal speaker seemed to understand the true gravity of what had just transpired. Morden had been present during the last major galactic conflict, 300 years ago, when humanity had first emerged from their home system. The ethereals kept extensive historical records, and those records contained classified information about humanity's true military capabilities. As the chamber slowly emptied, Morden floated alone among the abandoned seats, his translucent form pulsing with concern. He remembered the stories the older ethereals had told him, stories about ships that could tear holes in reality itself, and weapons that could crack planets, stories about a species that seemed peaceful until provoked beyond endurance. The Vorthak Empire was about to learn why humanity had been given such generous territorial concessions during the original peace negotiations. They were about to discover that some sleeping giants should never be awakened. In the depths of space, light years from the council chambers, automated beacons throughout human territory began broadcasting a single, chilling message on all frequencies. Condition Omega authorized. All civilian traffic returned to designated safe zones immediately. Military protocols now in effect. The galaxy was about to see what humanity had been building in secret for the past 3 centuries. Admiral Marcus Rodriguez stood on the bridge of the TDS Prometheus, humanity's most advanced research vessel, watching the stars through the massive viewport. The ship hung in space near Titan Station, humanity's primary military construction facility hidden in the shadow of Saturn's largest moon. What the galaxy didn't know was that Prometheus wasn't just a research vessel. It was the test bed for technologies that would make the galaxy's most powerful warships look like toys. Admiral, we're receiving priority Omega authorization codes from Earth Command, reported Lieutenant Commander Sarah Kim, her voice tight with controlled excitement. The entire bridge crew had trained for this moment, but none of them had expected it to come so soon. Rodriguez turned from the viewport, his weathered face grim. He had fought in the border skirmishes 20 years ago, the last time humanity had flexed its military muscle. The galaxy remembered those conflicts as minor territorial disputes. They had no idea that humanity had been holding back, testing their enemies' capabilities while revealing almost nothing of their own. Confirm authentication and begin Phase 1 protocols, Rodriguez ordered. Signal all stealth platforms to begin convergence on Rally Point Tango 7. The bridge erupted in controlled activity as officers activated systems that had remained dormant for decades. Throughout human space, similar scenes played out on dozens of hidden installations. The galaxy believed humanity possessed perhaps 50 major warships. The truth was far more disturbing. Deep beneath the ice of Europa, automated systems came online in the vast construction bays of Shipyard Prime. Massive doors, each one larger than a city block, began their slow opening sequence. Inside the artificial caverns, shapes moved in the darkness, shapes that defied conventional understanding of spacecraft design. Sir, receiving confirmation from all stealth fleets, reported Communications Officer Zhang. Ghost Squadron is 36 hours from Rally Point. Wraith Division confirms ready status. And sir, they're asking about the Nemesis. Rodriguez paused. The Nemesis project had been humanity's greatest secret for over a century. Even most of Earth's government didn't know it existed. It was a weapon so powerful that its creators had debated whether building it constituted a crime against the galaxy itself. Not yet, Rodriguez said quietly. We escalate by degrees. The galaxy needs to understand what they're facing before we show them our final card. On his tactical display, Icons began appearing as stealth systems deactivated across human space. Each icon represented a ship larger and more advanced than anything the Galactic Council had ever seen. The Vorthak Empire commanded 17 battle fleets, each containing roughly 100 ships. What they didn't know was that humanity had spent 3 centuries perfecting quality over quantity. Meanwhile, in the Vorthak home system of Kethmore, Fleet Admiral Vashatar reviewed intelligence reports with growing confidence. His mandibles clicked in satisfaction as he studied the human ship designs their spies had obtained. Primitive fusion drives, basic energy shields, kinetic weapons that seemed barely more advanced than chemical rockets. "How many ships do the humans possess?" he asked his intelligence chief. "Approximately 50 capital ships, Admiral. Most appear to be converted civilian vessels with minimal armor and outdated weapon systems. Their largest ship masses roughly 800,000 tons. Vashatar's forearms gestured in the Vorthak equivalent of laughter. "My flagship alone masses 3 million tons and carries enough firepower to sterilize a small planet. Order the 1st, 3rd, and 7th fleets to advance on human territory. We'll crush this uprising before it begins and claim their worlds as compensation for their insolence." What Vashtar didn't know was that human intelligence had infiltrated Vorthak command networks decades ago. Every order he gave was being monitored by artificial intelligences that could process information faster than biological minds could comprehend. The outdated ship designs his spies had discovered were deliberate deceptions, obsolete vessels maintained specifically to fool enemy intelligence. Back on Prometheus, Rodriguez received the intelligence update with grim satisfaction. They're mobilizing 3 fleets, roughly 300 ships total, including their new Decimator-class Dreadnoughts. "Orders, sir?" asked his tactical officer. "Deploy the Seraphim Squadron to intercept. Rules of engagement are weapons-free, but I want prisoners for interrogation. They need to understand that they've made a catastrophic mistake." Light years away, 6 shapes detached themselves from the asteroid field where they'd been hiding. To any external observer, they would have appeared as nothing more than irregularly shaped rocks. But as their active camouflage systems deactivated, they revealed themselves as something unprecedented in galactic warfare. Each Seraphim-class vessel was a masterpiece of human engineering, incorporating technologies that pushed the boundaries of known physics. Their hulls were composed of programmable matter that could reshape itself for optimal performance. Their weapon systems drew power from artificial singularities contained within inertialess fields. Most importantly, they were fast, faster than anything else in the galaxy. Captain Maria Santos, commanding the lead Seraphim, watched her displays as the Vorthak fleet approached the edge of human space. 300 ships in standard battle formation, confident in their overwhelming numbers. She almost felt sorry for them. "All Seraphim units, this is Phoenix Lead," she transmitted on encrypted channels. "Target designation confirms 3 Decimator-class Dreadnoughts, 12 heavy cruisers, and approximately 285 support vessels. We are cleared for Doctrine 7 engagement." Her crew exchanged glances. Doctrine 7 was the tactical framework for engaging vastly superior numbers using advanced technology and superior positioning. It was also completely theoretical. No human force had ever faced such overwhelming odds. "Weapon systems online," reported her tactical officer. "Singularity drivers charging. Temporal displacement fields ready. Remember," Santos addressed her crew, "we're not just fighting for humanity today. We're sending a message to the entire galaxy. Make it count." The Vorthak fleet continued its advance, unaware that 6 ships had already moved into position around them. The galaxy was about to witness the first demonstration of humanity's true capabilities in over 3 centuries. What followed would redefine the balance of power among the stars forever. Fleet Admiral Vashatar stood proudly on the command deck of his flagship, the VES Destroyer of Worlds. As his 3 fleets moved through hyperspace toward human territory, the massive Vorthak Dreadnought stretched for 12 kilometers, its hull bristling with plasma cannons and quantum torpedoes. Around it, 300 warships maintained perfect formation, their combined firepower enough to reduce entire star systems to cosmic dust. "Admiral, we're receiving long-range sensor data from the human border," reported his sensor chief, a young officer whose crest feathers quivered with excitement at the prospect of easy victory. "Minimal ship presence detected. Perhaps a dozen vessels total." Vashtar's mandibles clicked in satisfaction. Exactly as intelligence predicted. The humans are either too weak to defend their territory or too cowardly to fight. Either way, this will be over quickly. The Vorthak fleet dropped out of hyperspace at the edge of the Proxima Centauri system, humanity's oldest colony. Tactical displays immediately began cataloging targets: 3 orbital habitats, a mining platform, and what appeared to be a small defense station. No sign of the feared human warships. Beginning wide-spectrum scan, announced the sensor chief. Wait, I'm detecting some gravitational anomalies, probably just cosmic debris. Those gravitational anomalies were actually the 6 Seraphim-class vessels, their exotic matter hulls bending space-time around them to remain undetectable. Captain Santos watched from her position 15,000 kilometers above the Vorthak formation, her ship's sensors analyzing every aspect of the enemy fleet. Phoenix lead to all Seraphim units, she transmitted. Enemy formation analysis complete. They're using standard Vorthak battle doctrine. Heavy ships in the center, escorts forming a defensive sphere. No indication they're aware of our presence. Copy that, Phoenix lead, came the reply from Phoenix 2. Request permission to begin harassment protocol. Santos smiled grimly. Harassment protocol was a human innovation, using superior speed and stealth to strike targets across the enemy formation simultaneously, creating the illusion of a much larger force. Permission granted. All units execute harassment protocol on my mark. Target their sensor arrays and communication relays. Let's see how they function when they can't talk to each other. The first indication Vashatar had that something was wrong came when the destroyer VES Razor's Edge simply vanished from his tactical display. Not destroyed, vanished. As if it had never existed. Sensor chief, report. Vashtar barked, his forearms gesticulating wildly. Admiral, the Razor's Edge is gone. No explosion, no debris field. It just stopped transmitting. Before Vashatar could respond, 2 more ships disappeared from his display. Then 5 more. Panic began spreading through his flagship's command center, as officers realized they were under attack by an enemy they couldn't see. All ships, defensive formation Theta, Vashtar ordered. Begin random evasive maneuvers. Flood all communication channels. But the Seraphim had already adapted. Their artificial intelligences had analyzed Vorthak communication protocols and were now jamming specific frequencies while monitoring others. They could hear every order Vashatar gave while preventing his ships from coordinating their response. Phoenix 3 materialized directly beneath the Vorthak heavy cruiser, VS Thunderstrike, its singularity drivers charging for exactly 0.3 seconds before firing. The beam of compressed gravitational energy punched through the cruiser's shields as if they were made of paper, then continued through the ship's hull, reactor, and out the other side. The massive vessel split in half, its reactor containment failing in a brilliant flash of released plasma. Contact. Contact! Screamed the sensor chief on Vashatar's flagship. Unknown vessel bearing 27 Mark IV. It's Admiral. The energy signatures don't match anything in our databases. Vashatar watched in horror as another of his ships died. The human vessel responsible was unlike anything he'd ever seen, sleek and organic-looking, its hull seeming to shift and flow like liquid metal. Weapon ports opened and closed across its surface as if the ship itself were alive. All batteries target that vessel, he ordered. Maximum firepower! Dozens of plasma cannons and torpedo launchers turned toward Phoenix 3. Unleashing enough destructive energy to vaporize a small asteroid. But the Seraphim vessel simply wasn't there anymore. It had activated its temporal displacement field, moving itself 0.2 seconds into the future. The Vorthak weapons fire passed harmlessly through the space where the ship had been. Phoenix 3 reappeared 2,000 kilometers away, having used its brief temporal displacement to reposition for another attack. This time its target was Vashatar's flagship. Phoenix lead to Phoenix 3, Santos transmitted. You're cleared to demonstrate Project Mjolnir. Captain Lisa Park, commanding Phoenix 3, felt a chill run down her spine. Project Mjolnir was humanity's most devastating conventional weapon, a gravity hammer that could fold space itself. She'd trained with it in simulations, but this would be the first time it had been used in actual combat. Mjolnir charging, reported her weapons officer. Target lock acquired on the enemy flagship's primary reactor. The Destroyer of Worlds was an impressive sight. 12 kilometers of Vorthak military might, armored with quantum-hardened alloys and protected by shields that could deflect stellar radiation. It had never been seriously damaged in over 50 years of service. Phoenix 3's gravity hammer fired. Space itself twisted around the Vorthak flagship, creating a localized distortion that compressed the ship's midsection by roughly 50% in 0.1 seconds. Every system aboard the massive vessel failed simultaneously as the ship's internal structure collapsed under impossible gravitational forces. "Admiral," screamed his communications officer, "we're receiving a transmission from the human vessels." Vashitar, bleeding from multiple injuries as his command deck failed around him, gestured weakly for the transmission to be opened. Captain Santos's face appeared on his main display, her expression cold and professional. "Vorthak fleet," she said clearly. "You have 30 seconds to surrender or withdraw. You have attacked civilian installations and committed acts of war against humanity. This is your only warning." Vashitar looked at his tactical display. Of his 300 ships, 47 had been destroyed or disabled. His own flagship was crippled, life support failing, and he still couldn't see more than 2 of the attacking vessels. "How many ships do you have?" he whispered. Santos's smile was utterly without warmth. "Admiral, you're not fighting our ships. You're fighting our scout patrol. The actual fleet hasn't arrived yet." In the depths of space beyond the battle, automated beacons were already transmitting news of the engagement across the galaxy. Every species with deep space monitoring capabilities was recording the destruction of one of the galaxy's most powerful battle fleets by a force they couldn't even properly detect. The age of Vorthak supremacy was ending. The age of human technology had begun. The emergency session of the Galactic Council convened within hours of receiving the first fragmentary reports from the Proxima Centauri engagement. Representatives from 47 species filled the chamber, their various forms of communication, creating a cacophony of clicks, whistles, electronic tones, and translated speech. The holographic displays showed what little sensor data had been recovered from the battlefield. Council Speaker Mordun's ethereal form pulsed with urgent light as he called for order. "Fellow representatives, we face an unprecedented situation. The Vorthak Empire's 1st, 3rd, and 7th fleets have been effectively destroyed by human forces numbering no more than 6 vessels. Ambassador Zethkalar, his injuries from the flagship's destruction still visible despite medical treatment, rose unsteadily on his 3 remaining functional arms. The humans have violated every treaty governing galactic warfare. Their weapons are beyond anything previously encountered." "What exactly did you encounter?" asked the Altarian representative, her feathered crest betraying her nervous curiosity. The Altarians prided themselves on their intelligence networks, but they had no data on these human weapons. Zethkalar's remaining mandibles clicked rapidly as he accessed his damaged memory implants. "Ships that bend space itself, weapons that ignore our strongest shields. They move through our formation as if our vessels were stationary targets." "Impossible," declared the hegemony delegate, a massive crystalline being whose voice resonated through harmonic frequencies. "No single species possesses such technological superiority. Your forces must have malfunctioned." Before Zethkalar could respond, the chamber's communication array activated. Ambassador Chen appeared on the main display, but her transmission wasn't coming from the council building. The background behind her showed the bridge of a spacecraft unlike anything the assembled species had ever seen. "Council members," Chen said, her voice carrying across the chamber with perfect clarity. "I'm addressing you from the TDS Prometheus, currently holding position at the edge of the Sol system. I want to clarify several points about recent events." The chamber fell silent. Every representative present understood they were looking at advanced human technology in action, but the implications were staggering. The humans weren't just ahead in military capability. They were decades, possibly centuries, ahead in every field of science. "First," Chen continued, "the engagement at Proxima Centauri was conducted by a reconnaissance patrol, not our main fleet. The Vorthak forces attacked civilian mining operations and destroyed a research station. Our response was measured and proportional." "Measured?" Zethkalar's translator crackled with outrage. "You destroyed 3 entire fleets." Chen's expression remained professionally neutral. "Ambassador, your forces numbered 300 ships. Our patrol consisted of 6 vessels. If we had wanted to destroy your fleets, there would be no survivors to return with intelligence data. This statement sent ripples of shock through the assembly. The implications were clear. Humanity had allowed some Vorthic ships to escape deliberately as a message. Second, Chen continued, humanity has maintained peaceful relations with all galactic species for over 3 centuries. We have honored every treaty, respected every territorial boundary, and provided aid during natural disasters and humanitarian crises. However, the unprovoked attack on Kepler Station represents a fundamental change in our relationship with aggressive species. The Centauri delegate leaned forward in her seat. Ambassador Chen, the Council requires clarification on human military capabilities. The technology demonstrated in the Proxima engagement appears to violate several known physical laws. Chen smiled slightly. Delegate Valshara, our technology doesn't violate physical laws. We've simply developed a more complete understanding of how those laws operate. For example, our temporal displacement fields don't allow time travel. They create localized chronometric bubbles that permit tactical repositioning. The scientific implications hit the assembled representatives like a physical blow. Temporal manipulation, even on a limited scale, represented a breakthrough that would revolutionize galactic civilization, and the humans were using it as a combat tactic. What do you want? The question came from the ancient ethereal speaker himself, his translucent form flickering with what might have been apprehension. Justice, Chen replied simply. The Vorthak Empire will surrender the commanders responsible for ordering the attack on Kepler Station. They will pay reparations for the 40,000 civilian deaths, and they will immediately withdraw from all disputed territories claimed by force. Zethkalar's remaining arms gestured wildly. The Vorthak Empire will never submit to such demands. We have 12 additional fleets in reserve. Yes, Chen acknowledged, consulting a datapad. The 2nd, 4th, 5th, 6th, 8th, 9th, 10th, 11th, 12th, 14th, 15th, and home defense fleets. Approximately 1,300 ships total, including your new Omega-class planet destroyers. The precision of her intelligence information sent another wave of unease through the chamber. How did humanity possess such detailed knowledge of Vorthak? Military assets? If necessary, Chen continued, we will neutralize those fleets as well. However, I'm hoping we can resolve this situation without further bloodshed. The galaxy has enjoyed peace for 3 centuries. We'd prefer to maintain that peace. And if the Vorthak refuse your demands? Asked the hegemony representative. Chen's expression hardened. Then we will demonstrate why humanity has been content to remain within our designated territories despite possessing the capability to expand wherever we choose. The transmission ended abruptly, leaving the council chamber in stunned silence. For 3 centuries, the various species had assumed humanity was simply a peaceful, technologically modest civilization that preferred isolation. Now they understood the truth. Humanity hadn't been confined to their territory. They had been containing themselves. Emergency recess, announced Speaker Morden, his ethereal form paling with concern. All delegates will consult with their governments immediately. We reconvene in 6 hours. As the representatives filed out, many were already composing urgent communications to their homeworlds. The balance of galactic power had shifted overnight, and nobody was certain what would happen next. In the Vorthak home system, Supreme Commander Thakmor received reports of the council session with growing rage. 12 fleets destroyed by 6 ships. His species' reputation shattered before the entire galaxy. The humans demanding surrender and reparations. Mobilize everything, he ordered his subordinates. Every ship, every weapon, every warrior. If humanity wants to see our full strength, they shall have it. But deep in the classified archives of Vorthak military intelligence, automated systems were already detecting massive energy signatures throughout human space. Signatures that suggested the humans were no longer hiding their true capabilities. The galaxy was about to witness the emergence of humanity's real military might. And for the Vorthak Empire, it was already far too late to reconsider their course of action. Admiral Rodriguez stood in the command center of Titan Station, watching the massive holographic display that showed the entire galaxy. Red icons marked Vorthak fleet movements as they converged on human space from across their empire. Intelligence estimates suggested they were mobilizing everything, over 2,000 ships including their most powerful vessels. "Admiral, we're receiving confirmation from deep space monitoring stations," reported Captain Williams, his aide-de-camp. "The Vorthak are committing their entire navy. Even their reserve fleets are moving toward our borders." Rodriguez nodded grimly. He had hoped the demonstration at Proxima Centauri would convince the Vorthak to negotiate. Instead, they had chosen to escalate. "Signal Earth Command. Request authorization for Revelation Protocol." Williams paused. Revelation Protocol was humanity's contingency plan for full disclosure of their military capabilities. Once activated, there would be no going back to the careful deception they had maintained for 3 centuries. "Sir, are you certain? Once we reveal our true strength, every species in the galaxy will know what we're capable of." "Captain, the Vorthak have made their choice. They would rather fight than accept justice for 40,000 murdered civilians. It's time the galaxy understood why humanity has been the most peaceful species in recorded history." The authorization came through within minutes. Earth Command had reached the same conclusion. The era of secrecy was over. Throughout human space, massive installations that had remained hidden for centuries began powering up. Shipyards that could construct vessels the size of small moons activated their assembly lines. Weapons platforms that had been disguised as asteroid mining operations revealed their true nature. On the bridge of the TDS Prometheus, Admiral Rodriguez's image appeared on the main view screen as he addressed the ship's crew. "All hands, this is Admiral Rodriguez. As of this moment, humanity is transitioning to full military disclosure. The Vorthak Empire has chosen war over peace. They will discover what our species is truly capable of when threatened." The bridge crew exchanged glances. They had all sworn oaths to protect humanity's secrets, but they had also trained for this day. Lieutenant Commander Kim activated her console, sending encrypted signals to installations throughout the Sol system. Europa's ice began cracking along massive fault lines as the underground shipyards opened their kilometer-wide doors. The first vessel to emerge defied comprehension. A ship nearly 30 kilometers long, its hull appearing to be constructed from crystallized starlight. The TDS Sovereign represented humanity's mastery of exotic matter engineering, a mobile weapons platform that could reshape local spacetime through directed gravitational manipulation. Mars orbital facilities, previously disguised as terraforming stations, revealed themselves to be the largest military construction complexes ever built. Automated assembly systems that had been secretly producing warships for decades began working at full capacity, their output visible as a stream of new vessels emerging from hidden launch bays. But the most shocking revelation occurred at the edge of the Sol system, where what every alien species had assumed to be a natural asteroid field suddenly began moving with purpose. The asteroids were actually the outer shell of humanity's ultimate defensive installation, Fortress Sol, a weapons platform larger than most moons, capable of destroying entire fleets from light years away. The Vorthak fleet, now numbering over 2,000 ships, was still 3 days out from human space when their long-range sensors began detecting the massive energy signatures. Supreme Commander Thakmor studied the readings with growing unease. "Intelligence officer," he demanded, "explain these sensor readings. Our data indicates the humans possess no more than 50 ships." The intelligence officer, a younger Vorthak whose crest feathers had turned pale with stress, stammered his response. "Commander, we appear to have been seriously mistaken about human capabilities. These energy signatures suggest hundreds of vessels, many of them larger than our biggest dreadnoughts." Thakmor's forearms gestured in denial. "Impossible. Our spies have monitored human space for decades." "Sir," the tactical officer interrupted, "we're receiving a transmission from the human fleet. They're requesting our surrender." The transmission appeared on Thakmor's main screen, showing a human officer he didn't recognize. Fleet Admiral Sarah Martinez, commander of the Terran Defense Force's First Fleet, looked directly at the camera with the confidence of someone who held overwhelming superiority. "Vorthak Fleet," she said clearly. "This is Admiral Martinez of the Terran Defense Force. You are approaching human territory with obvious hostile intent. You have one opportunity to withdraw your forces and submit to galactic justice for your unprovoked attacks on civilian targets." Thakmor activated his reply channel, his mandibles clicking with rage. "Human, you face the combined might of the Vorthak Empire. 2,000 ships armed with our most advanced weapons. Your pathetic species cannot hope to match our power. Martinez's expression didn't change. Commander, you are facing the human defense force. Not our entire military, just our defensive units. Our offensive capabilities remain in reserve. Before Thakmor could respond, his tactical displays began updating with new contact readings. Where his sensors had previously detected empty space, massive human vessels were decloaking throughout the region. Not 6 ships, not 50 ships, hundreds of vessels, many of them larger than anything the Vorthak had ever built. Sir, his sensor chief called out, I'm detecting a massive gravitational anomaly directly ahead. Commander, it's artificial. Something is manipulating space-time on an enormous scale. The TDS Nemesis materialized on their view screens like a vision from nightmares. The super Dreadnought stretched for over 50 kilometers, its hull composed entirely of programmable matter that shifted and flowed in patterns that hurt to look at. Weapon ports opened and closed across its surface like breathing pores, each one larger than a Vorthak destroyer. Holy ancestors, whispered Thakmor's tactical officer. What is that thing? Admiral Martinez's voice cut through their shock. That, Commander, is the TDS Nemesis, one of our standard super dreadnoughts. We have constructed 47 others like it. Each one possesses enough firepower to sterilize your homeworld. The Vorthak fleet had stopped advancing, its commanders paralyzed by the realization of what they faced. For 3 centuries, they had believed themselves to be one of the galaxy's supreme military powers. Now they understood they had been children playing with toys. You have 30 minutes to begin withdrawal procedures, Martinez continued. After that time, we will consider your presence an act of war and respond accordingly. I strongly suggest you choose wisely. On his flagship, Thakmor stared at the tactical display showing the human fleet. Every instinct told him to fight, to die with honor rather than submit. But he was also responsible for the lives of millions of Vorthak warriors under his command. For the first time in his species' history, a Vorthak Supreme Commander was forced to consider the possibility of surrender. Supreme Commander Thakmor stood frozen on his command deck, staring at the impossible sight before him. The human fleet had materialized from seemingly empty space like a fever dream made manifest. Hundreds of vessels, many larger than entire Vorthak space stations, hung in perfect formation across multiple star systems. The technological gap wasn't measured in years or decades, it was measured in centuries. Sir, his communications officer said quietly, we're receiving surrender requests from 17 of our fleet commanders. They're asking permission to withdraw. Thakmor's mandibles clicked in anguish. His species had built an empire on military supremacy, conquering dozens of worlds through superior firepower and tactics. The idea of surrender was alien to Vorthak culture. But so was the idea of absolute technological inferiority. Show me detailed scans of their largest vessel, he ordered. The TDS Nemesis appeared on his tactical display in all its terrifying glory. The super dreadnought's hull shifted and flowed like liquid metal, its surface covered in weapon ports that opened and closed with organic precision. Energy readings indicated power output equivalent to a small star, contained and directed through technologies that violated every known principle of physics. Commander, his science officer reported, voice trembling, I'm detecting temporal distortions around their flagship. They're not just manipulating space, they're manipulating time itself. And sir, their hull composition appears to be programmable matter. They can literally reshape their ships during combat. On the bridge of the TDS Nemesis, Admiral Elena Vasquez watched the Vorthak fleet with clinical interest. The massive super dreadnought represented humanity's crowning achievement in military engineering, a vessel that could reconfigure itself for any tactical situation, armed with weapons that drew power from controlled singularities. Admiral, reported her tactical officer, the Vorthak fleet has stopped advancing. They're maintaining position at maximum sensor range. Understandable, Vasquez replied. Patch me through to their flagship. Let's see if we can end this without further bloodshed. Thakmor's main screen activated, showing Admiral Vasquez seated in what appeared to be a command center grown rather than built. Organic-looking displays pulsed with information while her crew operated consoles that seemed to respond to thought as much as touch. Supreme Commander, Vasquez said, her voice carrying across space with perfect clarity. I'm Admiral Vasquez, commanding the TDS Nemesis. I understand you're facing a difficult decision. Thakmor's training kicked in despite his shock. "Admiral, the Vorthak Empire has never surrendered in over 1,000 years of warfare." "And I respect that," Vasquez replied sincerely. "Military honor is important, but so is the lives of your crews. You're facing a force you cannot defeat with conventional tactics or weapons. Your choice is simple. Withdraw now with honor or force us to demonstrate why humanity has avoided galactic conflicts for 3 centuries. What are you?" Thakmor asked, the question escaping before he could stop himself. "What are you really?" Vasquez leaned back in her command chair, considering her answer carefully. "We're explorers, Commander. Scientists and philosophers who happen to become very good at protecting ourselves. 3 centuries ago, when we first encountered galactic civilization, we realized that our technology gave us 2 choices: become conquerors or become hermits. We chose isolation." On Thakmor's tactical display, more human vessels continued to decloak. Each new contact represented technology beyond his comprehension, weapons that could reshape the fundamental forces of reality. But Kepler Station changed everything. Vasquez continued. 40,000 civilians died for the crime of existing in space your empire wanted to claim. That kind of aggression cannot be allowed to continue. What happens if we withdraw? Thakmor asked quietly. You return to Vorthak space. Your government surrenders the officers responsible for ordering the attack on Kepler Station. Reparations are paid to the victims' families. And the Vorthak Empire agrees to respect established territorial boundaries. And if we refuse? Vasquez's expression hardened. Then we demonstrate what happens to species that commit genocide against human civilians. As if summoned by her words, space itself began to twist around the nemesis. Reality bent and folded as the Super Dreadnought's most devastating weapon system came online. The probability cascade generator could literally rewrite local physics, making enemy weapons ineffective while ensuring that human weapons struck with perfect accuracy. But that wasn't the most terrifying sight on Thakmor's sensors. Behind the human fleet, something massive was approaching. The gravitational signature was so enormous that it registered as a stellar mass object, but moving with purpose and direction. What is that? He whispered. That, Vasquez said with quiet pride, is Fortress Sol, our home system's primary defense installation. If you force us to use it, your entire fleet will be erased from existence in approximately 0.3 seconds. The object emerging from hyperspace defied every conception of military engineering. Fortress Sol wasn't a ship or a station. It was a construct the size of a small planet, its surface covered in weapons that could crack moons. It moved through space with impossible grace, reality bending around it like water around a stone. Choose quickly, Commander, Vasquez said. Fortress Sol's main weapon requires 47 minutes to fully charge. After that point, the decision will be made for you. Thakmor looked at his tactical display, then at his crew, then at the impossible human fleet arrayed against him. For 1,000 years, his species had dominated through superior firepower. Now he faced beings who had turned warfare into an art form while hoping never to practice it. All Vorthak vessels, he transmitted on all frequencies. This is Supreme Commander Thakmor. We are withdrawing from this engagement. Return to home space immediately. The relief on his bridge was palpable. Across his fleet, ship commanders who had expected to die in glorious battle instead found themselves retreating from an enemy that could have annihilated them without effort. A wise decision, Admiral Vasquez said. Safe travels, Commander. As the Vorthak fleet began its withdrawal, automated beacons throughout the galaxy broadcast news of the engagement. Every species with deep space monitoring capabilities watched the readouts with growing awe and terror. Humanity hadn't just revealed advanced technology. They had revealed capabilities that bordered on the godlike. In the Galactic Council chambers, emergency sessions convened as species after species realized that the balance of galactic power had permanently shifted. The humans weren't just another member species anymore. They were the apex predators of known space, choosing to coexist peacefully with lesser civilizations. On the bridge of the Prometheus, Ambassador Chen received reports from across human space. The revelation had worked perfectly. Not a single shot had been fired. But every aggressive species in the galaxy now understood the consequences of attacking human civilians. Ma'am, reported her aide, we're receiving communication requests from 43 different species. They're all offering trade agreements, mutual defense pacts, and scientific exchange programs. Chen smiled. Respond positively to all peaceful overtures. And make sure every response includes a reminder that humanity prefers diplomacy to demonstrations of force. The galaxy had learned an important lesson. Humanity's 3 centuries of peaceful isolation hadn't been weakness, it had been mercy. And now that mercy had limits, the age of human dominance hadn't begun with conquest or aggression. It had begun with the simple recognition that sometimes the most powerful deterrent to war was the absolute certainty of what would happen to those who chose to start one.